From the state capitol, the Capitol Report with Senator Dave Cox. And now, the Capitol Report.
Today we're joined by political reporter for the Sacramento Bee, Ed Fletcher, and Susan Belknap, who is the editor of the Roseville and Granite Bay Press Tribune. Ed and Susan are in our Capitol studio to talk about the challenges facing newspapers today. And certainly want to thank you, Susan. Thank you, Ed, for being here. Let's begin by, if we can, just getting some sort of understanding about how you got in the business. And let's start with you, Ed. How did you get in the business?
Well, first off, thanks for having me, Dave.
Surely.
It's a pleasure. I got into the business because I was always interested in the media. And in college, I actually started out as a broadcasting major and ended up following a pretty girl into the student paper and have been in love with newspapers ever since. Don't know where the girl is.
Did you think you were going to be a sportscaster?
No, I gravitated away from sports in part because there were lots of African Americans who do sports. So I thought I was good at doing news, and I think I'm still pretty good at doing news. So I figured if I can do that skill set, then that's where I should be. And I ended up doing a double major in political science too. So I sort of follow those, even though I do love sports.
You've always been with the Bee?
I started out, I did a rotating internship for a now defunct newspaper chain called Knight Ridder. The Bee bought it last year. So I worked a lot of internships before I came to the Bee, but pretty much my adult professional career has been at the Sacramento Bee.
And Susan, you're the editor. How'd you get in the business?
I started actually in high school. I was on the school newspaper there in high school and just kind of liked the style, you know, that journalism enabled me to write. And I think I always ask a lot of questions, so it just kind of seemed like a good thing for me to get into.
It was just a natural fit.
I think so. I think so.
And how long have you been, as opposed to being a journalist, how long have you been an editor?
I've only been an editor since October of 2007 with the Roseville Press Tribune. I was an editor with one of our other papers, the Loomis News, for a couple of years.
Let me just ask you about, Susan, what's a typical day like for you? What time do you start? What time do you get finished? Or does it make any difference about whether or not you're publishing, whether you put the newspaper to bed, or how does that work?
I don't think there is a typical day, but usually I try and start by looking at our websites, you know, see if anything has happened on any of our other sites. Tons of email. And it just seems like there's always a lot of fires to put out. You know, there's just always something going on. Lots of phone calls. I answer lots of phone calls. And yes, some days are more hectic than others. The days that we publish, you know, you might have one story planned and then some news happens and something burns down or whatever, and you've got to change the page.
So you got to drop everything. Ed, how about you? How's your day begin?
Well, the day begins by reading the paper, and then nowadays you go and you check the website.
By the way, you read more than one paper?
I read one paper, physical paper, the Sacramento Bee, but I'll read other papers online and see what's going on out there. I don't have the luxury of subscribing to other papers right now. But you go online, you read what updates have happened between while you've been sleeping. Nowadays we read the comments and see what people are saying about what you wrote before. Check your email and head into the office. And
the bloggers have made a real difference in the newspaper business.
Well, yeah, not only bloggers, but the way we've restructured things, and we now allow people more direct feedback. Before it used to be people could comment by writing a letter to the editor. Now it takes 30 seconds to comment, and that adds a little bit to the conversation, and some of the days that's almost as fun as reading a story, seeing what everybody else is saying. Sometimes it gets a little askew when somebody makes an incorrect point and people all comment about that, but for the most part, it's a new way to really enjoy and consume news and for people to be part of the process.
Is it the internet has changed the newspaper business? Is it the electronic age that has changed the newspaper business so that, I mean, you're not doing business today the way you did business 10 years ago or 15 years ago or when you first started in the newspaper business. You're now competing with the electronic media.
Definitely. I think it's totally changed.
And competing with bloggers who don't necessarily have to get all the facts right.
That's true. And sometimes they say things that you wish weren't on there. But you know, that's the internet these days, and that's our instant society. You know, we're able to, instead of taking the time like we used to writing the letter, like Ed said, people can just go and type, and in 5 minutes they've got a comment to the newspaper. So I think it's totally changed the way that newspapers are run these days.
It's probably pretty difficult to determine how long this new way of doing business is going to last, because clearly the newspapers have had a drop in revenue, and things have changed.
Well, I think hopefully for a while they'll both the old style newspaper or traditional newspapers and the internet product will live, and we'll see if there's a total migration to internet products. Right now there's still a lot of people that prefer to get their newspaper delivered to their door, and they can carry it with them on the train or in their car or wherever they go. So
it's something tangible too. You know, they can hold on to it. Although with computers they can hold on to that as well. But yeah.
Right, and until everybody has a laptop and we have broadband access everywhere, I don't know if we'll see a total migration. But the internet has allowed us to do some things that we can't do with the traditional paper. In the beginning, we sort of we were a little annoyed, or it took us. It's more work to have to write, to come back from the Senate hearing, or to come back from the Board of Supervisors, and to have to write a quick story within 20 minutes, and then write something else for the next day. But it's changed the way we operate, and we now can do multimedia. We can do video. We can do audio online, and it's given us it's a real advantage in some areas.
Well, now, generally speaking, from a journalist standpoint, Ed, if your editor wants something in the newspaper tomorrow, what time's it's got to be in by?
In the newspaper?
What time do you have to have the finished product to the editor to decide whether or not they're going to put it in or not?
Well, the trick is to know when the story is going to come in. So some stories can be as late as 11 o'clock if they're holding a spot for it.
If they know it's coming.
If they know it's coming.
Right.
But for the most part, we're finishing Metro stories by 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and then there may be 1 or 2 stories that they know are coming in late, and then you'll work from there. But if something really drastic happened, we figure out a way and make it work. And that's why the old famous line, "Hold the presses." If we have to, we'll move the press date back and we'll accommodate it.
Susan, is that your same situation?
It is, except we're a little different because we're twice weekly.
Twice a week.
So we don't have some of that, those same luxuries. Our press days are Tuesdays and Fridays, and one of those days we finish by 3 o'clock because there's other papers that have to be printed because we're part of Gold Country Media, which is several different newspapers.
Right.
But that's the glory, I think, of that internet and those websites, that it may not get in that next day's edition, but we can get it up on the web instantly. So I think it's an okay thing.
Is when you write and you do an article, is it your decision whether it goes in the paper or is put on the web? Who makes that decision?
Pretty much everything goes on the web now. There was a time where we said, we know this, we assume that TV doesn't know yet, so we're going to hold on to this and put it in the paper the next day. I think that those times have changed. If it's something that happened that day and there's any remote chance that somebody else knows about it, we put it on the web as soon as we can. And in most cases, it's going to be a small blurb, 3 paragraphs, and then we'll write a fuller story, and then it'll be in the paper the next day. So that's not an either-or kind of thing anymore.